Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. In Thor Love and Thunder, in the trailer, we actually got a look at two Celestials that appear in Omnipotence City. And although the roles of these Celestials is very minor, in fact this is basically the only shot we get of them in the entire film, their inclusion with the gods and in Omnipotence City does actually hold some pretty big consequences for the Marvel Universe. So in this video, we wanted to highlight two things. We want to talk about who these two Celestials are, their names and roles in the greater cosmic MCU, as well as why they are actually on Omnipotence City and why they are allowed here, which in itself holds pretty big consequences for the MCU. So, minor spoilers for Thor Love and Thunder will continue on in this video, so without further ado, let us begin. Until now, the actual physical appearance of Celestials in the MCU has been a largely sparse occurrence, with only Arishem and Ego thus far playing significant roles in their respective MCU properties, leaving us to wonder who these Celestials are and what their inclusion might mean for this film and future projects. In the film, the Celestials were only shown for a few brief seconds, and the only evidence that we have to identify them is their physical appearance. Using just this to work with, the best guesses that we can venture is that these Celestials are most likely Gamil, the Manipulator, and Tefral, the Surveyor. But if any of you have better guesses or more evidence to suggest that these are other Celestials that we may know of, be sure to let us know down below. Let's begin with the Celestial known as Tefral, the Surveyor, who is the most well known for charting the different landscapes of various planets ahead of celestial hosts. And Tefral is actually one of the very few Celestials to set foot on a planet before Judgement ultimately takes place. Upon first glance, this might imply that Olympus is about to be judged by Arishem, as he decides whether or not the Olympians are worthy of continuing on with their evolutionary path. But we don't believe that this is what's happening here for one simple reason. In the Eternals film, we learn of the Celestials' grand design, which is to expand life across the universe and use planets to host celestial emergences, wherein brand new Celestials are then hatched at the expense of a host planet. They do not, however, show any indication that they are concerned with any life forms on said planet, and a planet only serves as a source of energy for a newborn Celestial. In the comics, the Celestials are notorious for monitoring and altering the evolutionary paths of different creatures and species across the galaxy, conducting experiments and judging them based on how promising these results seem. But in the MCU, this doesn't seem to be the case. At the end of the Eternals film, Arishem is surprised that this band of Eternals turned on him and chose to save their host planet of Earth, and he decides only now that he wants to judge them. He returns to his world Forge, where it is said that he will study eternal memories in order to decide whether or not humans are worthy of continuing on living and continuing on their evolutionary path. And this seems to be the first, if not one of the first instances of Judgement so far in the larger MCU. This indicates that Judgments are not common practice for the Celestials as of right now, and it's likely that maybe there haven't been any Judgments whatsoever thus far. As it pertains to Tefral, it likely means that he is not known for scouting hosts of Judgement as he is in the comics, simply because Celestials don't judge planets just yet in the MCU, although this could be his role moving forward. The title of the Surveyor doesn't give us much to work with, but it's possible that he is still something of a scout for Arishem, surveying planets in order to determine whether or not they are in need of eternal support or if they are capable of hosting celestial emergencies. Since Olympians are powerful sentient life forms who don't appear to be hunted, it's unlikely that they need eternal protection. As for why he and Gamil are on Olympus, however, we will be addressing that in just a moment. But first, let's cover Gamil the Manipulator and his role in the Celestial Society. Gamil is perhaps one of the most unique Celestials, as he is not only one of the youngest and physically smallest, but has one of the deepest personal connections with the planet of Earth. During the dawn of humanity, Gamil was tasked with watching over the planet alongside his fellow Celestial, Devin. Over the centuries, the two hosted their own experiments on the planet, and sparked a rivalry between their respective creations, effectively turning the Earth into a playground of sorts for their adventures and battles. Ultimately, Gamil pulled the Hulk from the future in order to aid in his war against Devin, much to the dismay of Arishem, who promptly reassigned Gamil to a different location across the galaxy. Gamil then made his way to Hala, where he watched over the Kree Empire and inadvertently sparked the war between them and the Skrulls, which waged on for 4 million years. He is known for manipulating the societies of different life forms on different planets to his own liking, and he has a much more active role in the societies of his subjects than most Celestials do, which is uncommon. While he has not been shown of Earth as of yet, the idea could be carried on over to Olympus, as Gamil might play a more involved role in Greek society and might be much more closely integrated into their social structure than a normal celestial would be. So why exactly are these two celestials on Olympus in the first place? If the celestials are regulars on Olympus, then they might be among the most socially active celestials that we've ever seen, which would be in line with Gamil's track record of being more directly involved with the lives of those that he protects, or rather that he experiments on. Since the Olympians do not seem to show any concern with these two celestials being in their home, it seems to imply that it is relatively common for them to be there, and they likely do not mean the Olympians any harm whatsoever. This might mean that these two celestials are simply being social, and some of Gamil's backstory might be adopted to fit Olympus rather than that of Earth. However, it might also imply that once Arishem falls into the practice of judging worlds, Olympus might be next simply because he already has celestials stationed on Olympus and because of their greed that we saw in Love and Thunder. If the Olympians are the subjects of the next Judgment, then it might pull the Eternals to Olympus and set up a crossover between the Eternals and the Olympian pantheon of gods, leaving us to wonder where Gamil and Tefral will fall on the matter. Another option entirely could be that in some place throughout the galaxy, these celestials are worshipped as gods, meaning that they have a place in Omnipotence City as regulars. It's likely that the celestials are indeed worshipped in gods among many different cultures who are aware of their existence, and this could simply be leisure time rather than these two celestials being specifically stationed here. What's important to remember though is that the celestials are some of the most powerful entities in the MCU, with the capability of destroying a planet if they so desired, and it is very unlikely that they are stationed on Omnipotence City for no reason. But anyway, watchers, what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on the appearance of these two celestials in Thor: Love and Thunder? And what do you think their larger role could be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe headed forward? Do you think that we identified these celestials correctly, or do you think that they are different characters and different celestials altogether? Also, do you think that Omnipotence City is destined to be judged by Arishem and the other celestials, or are they stationed on the planet because they are being worshipped as gods? As always, my friends, thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button to assemble and join our team, and I hope that you have a great day.